This week I've spent £233 on 2 faulty eBay items in the attempt of trying to fix them and sell them for a profit. This is our first item, Power Your Dreams, and for this item individually I paid £170. Funny enough, they actually sent it in this box as well. It's the latest generation of console, the Xbox Series X. To be honest with you as well, in relatively good condition, hardly any scratch marks on it, which is obviously great news. The back of it, it looks like it has been open from what I can tell, because we have the warranty sticker gone here, and I think what they've done is taken this off with heat and then put the sticker back on. What's the issue? It doesn't have any power. Doesn't power on, doesn't make a noise, nothing. We're gonna test that because sometimes eBay is eBay. And when I say sometimes, I mean 90%. We go ahead and put power in. I didn't hear a crackle. I'm just gonna try it again. I heard a crackle that time, so maybe the power supply is good. What happens? Here we go. Nothing. All right, so the description is 100% accurate. The unit doesn't power on, and it does actually state on there as well that somebody's already been in the console. What they've already done inside this console, I have no idea, neither do you, and we're gonna find out. Whilst we take it apart, a quick word from our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is your one-stop shop for everything DIY. Create a custom PCB and have your quote in seconds. The ordering process is made super simple with so many different customizable features for your design. They also specialize in CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and injection molding. Why not even go ahead and share your project in the project section of the website? You can't beat PCBWay's prices and express delivery times. Head over to the link in the description for a $5 welcome bonus. I've just taken the back off the console, that's all I've done. And one thing in particular is standing out to me, and that is that the front panel connector is not plugged in. It can't be that that is the only reason why this isn't powering on. Oh, okay, I've seen what might potentially be wrong with this. And I'm gonna go ahead and continue taking it out of the chassis because the connector here, which I believe is called the Nexus connector, looks like it's done in for. Interestingly as well, this isn't connected, which is to the sync button on the bottom of the chassis. So I don't know if somebody's taken that out as well. Just a note to say as well that this has actually been unplugged from the board. So that, along with this, the Nexus connector, of course it's not going to power on. The sensible thing to do now is just quickly take my multimeter and we're going to see if we have a short on the 12 volt rail on either the top board or the second board. So we'll put our black probe on ground. Okay, so that's the positive pin on the top board, that's fine. Okay, that's good, so we don't have a short there. What about the bottom one? So that's negative, this is positive, no short there. Okay, so we don't have a 12 volt short on either the bottom board or the top board. Hoping then that we should just be able to replace that Nexus connector and at least get power. You can short pins to see if you actually get power, but regardless, I'm gonna have to change out that Nexus connector. I'll show you that now under the scope. Let's have a nosy. There we go, okay. Yeah, Nexus connector absolutely messed up. We still have a lot of the metal chassis on the board by the looks of it. I don't know what the state of the actual pads are underneath. I'm not gonna move these too much because I don't wanna rip any pads. Saying that, I think that one's just ripped, but that one might actually be ground by the looks of it. So I'm just gonna apply some heat very quickly, get all of this off and see what we're looking at, because it might be quite a bit of trace repair, or we might get lucky. This board, from my understanding, is actually quite thin, so we're gonna be able to do a lot of the work from heating up underneath, especially when we go to put the connector back on. The reason why that's really good is because next to it, right here, we have this plastic connector. Let's do that now then. Let's heat up from the bottom of the board and get rid of all of this. It wasn't a rip pad by the looks of it, it was maybe just a bit clouded over, but we're going to be able to put another Nexus connector here, and hopefully that's all that's wrong with this Xbox. If that is the case, we are on to a winner, but eBay is not that easy. Now, technique wise here for me, I like to just apply the tiniest bit of flux, just a small blob there. Then I come in with my cotton swab and I just put it on the areas which are going to bond with the solder, just like this. Not too much. Now the issue, if you put too much flux on these areas and I go ahead and put the new connector on, it's going to wobble about and it will go flying. It's just my experience with flux. We're just going to place the Nexus connector there or thereabouts, and now just adjust it quickly to make sure that everything's in line. Doesn't have to be spot on, because when the solder flows it will just take it And you can apply heat here and then jiggle it about. I just find it easier to kind of get it in an okay position to start with, and then just heat the board. There we go, I think that's going to be fine. All that needs to be done is a little clean up. I might just go over the pins to make sure that we're all okay. And the only reason I kind of want to do that is because of my new soldering iron. Just to kind of test it out. Make sure we get rid of all the flux on the left side, because that's where the connector actually goes in, the cable, the ribbon cable. All of these pins here as well look soldered and connected to the board. I think actually, do you know what? Not for the sake of testing with the iron, I think that is just going to be fine. I don't think there's really a need for me to do it. The spring for the latch is springy, that's good. Just to be sure then, we will do a strength test. Ooh, that's ground, right? Oh, so maybe that pad that I said that wasn't connected is genuinely not connected, but the pad has stayed there. Or maybe it is connected, it's just very loose and wobbly. But everything else seems to be okay. Yeah, it's just this one here, which I believe is ground. And a way to test this, multimeter in continuity mode, and I'm just gonna touch on this one, yeah, ground. So we get a beep, that's connected to ground. I'll put this back together as much as I need to for testing purposes, just to see if at least now we get power. Wish me luck. All I'm looking for is just to see if it powers on. This is bare bones how I've got it. I've not even got the fan connected. As long as it powers on, I'll turn it straight off, put it back together, and then we can fully test. It's all ready to go. I'm nervous, very nervous. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We get power, lights on, and it stays on. It's not turning off, and it's getting brighter. It's doing its thing. I think it's starting up. Okay, let's turn it off. That is an absolute result. I'll just quickly put it back together. Actually, put some new thermal paste on. Make sure we give this console the lease of life that it really deserves. Then we'll give it all a nice test. This could be a really good profit for Sally's spectacular spreadsheet. And looking at this, we were not really dry, but definitely needed a change. You can't make this up. I'm literally in the middle of just screwing the screws back down for the X-clamp. Really happy, thinking to myself, we fixed this. And I glanced over at the HDMI port. What on earth has happened here? The pins aren't touching. Oh, Lord above. I told you it was eBay. Back under the scope we go. What do we have here then? Lord above. This is bent, but I don't think that's a massive issue. I can still see the flux like just here pouring out if I move this. Not fantastic. We've still got the bit of glue as well. This bit here, I'm not going to be able to get that off until I apply some heat again. The ground holes, you saw, I just pulled that port off. I didn't even, it wasn't even a pull if I'm being honest. But we can see just like there's solder blobs just everywhere with flux. We're missing one of the diodes here. Now these diodes actually you don't need to replace from what I've experienced. I've had an Xbox that's worked absolutely fine without having 3 or 4 of these, so it doesn't need to be replaced. If I can find it here though, I will put it back, but I don't think that's the current situation. Somebody's obviously either purchased this console and seen it as a HDMI port replacement and thought they'd give it a go themselves, or they've obviously owned it and gone, I'm gonna fix that myself. They've then messed up the Nexus connector and it's gone to no power. First things first, heating this up and cleaning it, because I need to know exactly what I'm working with. Then we're going to install a new port. This is going to be very tough. When I'm at work, I use a preheater which warms the board to about 350 degrees Celsius, then clear out the ground holes, and it becomes very easy with my solder sucker. Doing it with my home setup, I've got an Atten ST862D. I've struggled with these before because this Xbox board, as you can see through this hole, is so thick. But we shall give it our best shot. Let's get this cleaned and this HDMI port replaced. Quick pause, obviously this is not good, done by the previous person who's worked on this. Now, I've just measured all of the components around it in diode mode, and they all seem to be a-okay. So I think they're actually alright, however, I can't leave this like this. I'm gonna have to replace it because, you know, even if it does work, how long is it gonna work for? Something to definitely bear in mind in case I'm not getting an image, but I am just going to test and make sure that we get the diode readings that we need to have, which I actually don't think we are. We're getting in the regions of, you know, 2 voltage drop in diode mode, which definitely isn't accurate. As far as I know, it should be around about the 0.7, 0.5s, but most of these are like 2 voltage drop. So I think I'm actually going to have to reball this. We have chip 1, chip 2. I've reballed 2. It took me a while on the first one, which I believe is this one because the balls are a little bit bigger. So I'm going to try my luck with this one first because the balls look a lot more even sized. On this one we have a big ball here and a big ball here. But now we're going to prep the board and use this IC. Now that's on, let's measure in diode mode just to make sure we have correct readings now. 0.5, good. 0.6, 0.6, 0.5, 0.3, 0.7, 0.4, 0.6, 0.6, 0.6, 0.6, perfect. I think we're okay here now. That took way longer than I expected. Reballing is one of those things that when you start, it takes a while to warm up. Now for the HDMI port. Alright, HDMI port is donezo, as well as the ESD filter. As I said, bit of a pain. Those chips are extremely small. I think I've got one for scale actually. Just have to make sure I don't lose it. Tweezer. The chip is at the end of the tweezer. I'm going to try and get it to focus. I don't think it's going to focus, but that is the size of the chip. Just for reference, it can't even focus on it. I'm not surprised, to be fair, but that is the size of that chip. If you compare it to my nose, I know I've got a big nose, but still, very, very small. I'm glad I've reballed 2 because now I've got that one spare. As you can see, my desk is messy. I'm gonna put this back together and pray that it works. Okay, the Xbox is finally back together. Let's give it a test and just make sure that we get output on the screen. Obviously, I'm quite nervous because we had to change the ESD filter as well as the HDMI port. And the Elgato game capture should work because it's an Xbox, not a PlayStation. Do we get power? Yes, we do, the light, and it stays on. If we go over to the game scene, yes, okay, my webcam is on. There we go, okay. So the reason why it broke is because obviously they play Fortnite and FIFA. It's a very interesting background. If we connect it to the internet, I wonder if it's gonna ask me to update straight away. There we go. We've just updated the console. I've signed in as a guest rather than the other person's account. On here I go up to 1440p because of the Elgato game capture, but you will see a video on screen of me going downstairs on my TV and it does show 4K. The only thing left to check is just to make sure it reads a disc. Sounds good, it's definitely reading and picking it up. There we go, Rise, Son of Rome, and it's now installing. That is a great result. Now, to be honest with you, I didn't expect that fix to take that long. I thought it might just be the no power being the Nexus connector. Then obviously on top of that, we had the HDMI port and the ESD booster IC. And I don't have enough time to actually go through this fix. Nonetheless, it will roll into next week. Let's head over to Sally's spectacular spreadsheet and see what kind of profit we've made in today's video. So the parts, I have a HDMI port here for £1. I bought the console for £170. I've not included the ESD filter as I've taken that from a donor console. and just rebuild it. I've seen Xbox Series X's go from anywhere from £260 up to £300 just for the console on its own. So I'm going to meet in the middle, and I'm going to say £280 as our sell price, which means in today's video we've made a gross profit of £89.68, which I'm obviously extremely happy about. There we go, 89.68. That brings our total to £122.39 in the green. Hopefully we can continue with that profit into next week, and let's not get back into the red. We're on a roll now. I'll leave last week's episode just up here. Thank you for watching, have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.